Great. Rachel, could you hear us okay?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, so we just are gonna wait for maybe another couple minutes. Okay.
I'm just testing the sound. I'm not hearing anything.
But it came in the next day and I literally forgot to go back.
Yeah.
It was an easy one.
Yeah.
That's right.
Welcome, everybody, to the February 27th, 2025 meeting. I'll start again. Welcome, everyone, to the February 27th, 2025 meeting of the Monroe County Planning Board. Today's meeting is being recorded. It's also being live streamed on YouTube. I'm filling in for Bill Santos, chair for the board, who's traveling today. And we've got a full agenda here. We've got 13 quorum votes. We've got the meeting minutes from January. We also have a vote for an amendment to the CIP for the airport, and then 12 different requests from the Pure Waters and Sewer District projects. We'll start by just calling roll. Bill Santos, marked absent. Mike Wiedemer, I'm here. Sam Trapani. Andrew Hollister. Orlando Rivera. Dave Watson.
Here.
Millie Safranek.
Virtual.
on Zoom. County Legislator Robert Colby.
I'm on Zoom too.
Thank you. County Legislator Rachel Barnhart.
Hello from Zoom.
Zoom. We've got either Jeff McCann or Adrian Green. Adrian. Amy Grower is not here. Connor McMahon.
Here.
Robert Franklin.
Here.
Joe Taddeo.
Here.
Richard Tantallo. Christina Doherty. Sean Murphy.
Here.
Andy Frazier.
Here.
Thank you. Anishan, introduction of any guests?
We have Edson Lia from the airport to answer any questions from the board, and for the planning staff, our director analyst here, and myself, Ishan Lin, and our supporting clerk, Lisa Hanson.
Lisa,
And from law, Josh Peterson.
thank you, Josh. All right, terrific. First item on the agenda is the approval of the meeting minutes from January 30th, 2025. I think all the members received the draft meeting minutes in their meeting packet today. Can I have a motion to approve those minutes?
Move. Second.
Dave, Bob, any discussion? Any need for edits, amendments? Not hearing none, can I have a vote to approve the meeting minutes from January 30th? All those in favor say aye.
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 Hi.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. All right, announcements and communications.
I just want to know that welcome Connor McCon to be the alternate to the Assistant County Executive, Amy Grower. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome, Connor.
Thank you.
Okay, Allison, we're gonna get to you in a second here. So this item is item number 3 on the agenda, which is a request for the board to consider to amend the 2025 capital budget to increase funding for the terminal improvements project at the Frederick Douglass Greater Rochester International Airport in the amount of $1 million. So it changes the amount from $5 million in this year's capital budget up to $6 million. Again, a total project authorization of $6 million. Can I have a motion for that amendment?
So move.
Moved by Bob. A second?
I'll do it. Oh, go ahead.
Sean for the,
It doesn't matter. We'll get the next one.
we're not gonna do all 11 at once. So, we'll do second, Andrew. And then I guess with that, we've got a presentation from Allison.
Yeah, so thanks for having me. This project is an expansion of the Strong Museum of Play exhibit. The airport has a partnership with museum. We currently have 2 exhibits. We get the Video Game Hall of Fame, Toy Hall of Fame. So this will expand upon that. It's going to be aviation related, interactive, great for all ages, kids, teens, adults. It sounds super. So we want to continue that collaboration with them, keep that partnership, expand that, provide more amenities to passengers, be a good time.
And this is going in the section kind of towards Terminal A?
Correct.
Yeah, gotcha. And the current plan was to spend $5 million in 2025? And this increases it by an incremental $1 million?
Yeah, the project will be roughly.
Does the Strong Museum contribute? Or what is their contribution?
They provide the exhibit. I believe they have maintain it kind of thing. The airport authority is funding it.
But they maintain it?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Questions or comments? All right, hearing none, can I ask for all those in favor to say aye?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm an aye as well. Any opposed? Motion carries. Allison, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that very much.
You can.
All right, so we have a total of 11 amendments. And correct me if I'm wrong, these are all amendments to the 2025 capital budget to several of our Pure Water District. So this would be a great time for the map.
So can you actually bring up the presentation too? Yep. Just breeze right to probably the third slide. Right, yep, so again, the 2025-2030 CIP has already been approved by this board and then also by the legislature. So this is to authorize the 2025 capital budget to actually give us the money to undertake the projects we're talking about. So Monroe County Pure Waters is a generic term. The Department of Environmental Services is a department that does it, but each district is its own separate entity, financial entity and operational entity. So the Irondequoit Bay South Central District, which actually originally was two, it was the South Central and Irondequoit Bay District, got combined several years ago. It's basically just interceptors. There's a large tunnel that takes flow up to the Van Laar treatment plant. The Rochester Pure Water and the local collection system is all responsible for the town. And the storm sewer is also the responsibility of the town. The Rochester Pure Waters District is pretty much the city of Rochester and a little bit of Gates. That's a combined sewer system, a separate sanitary system, separate storm system, deep tunnel system, and a large treatment plant up at Lake Ontario, 135 million gallons dry flow, which services most of that area. The GCO Sewer District, which is just local sanitary sewer responsibility for us. Then the towns would have their own storm sewer responsibility. There used to be a treatment plant here. I'll talk about that actually in a second. And then the Northwest Quadrant Treatment or Pure Waters District, where we do conveyance, the large interceptors, but then there's also a treatment plant. And that's just for sanitary sewage and the local sanitary sewer collection systems are the responsibility of the towns, and it is storm sewer responsibility. So that explains what the different districts are. And they each have their own rate structure, raise their own money, spend their own money, all under the guidance of our CFO. All right. So any questions just about the organizational makeup, if you will?
None for me, anyone else?
All right. So with that, we put together our CIP that identifies projects. There's a couple different ways we do this. You all set with this?
Yeah.
You are. Thank you, Hannah. The order isn't really quite the same, but you'll see in this first slide, if you look on the, there's what's called district cash and district bonded money. And the district cash are essentially general improvements that we make. It's money that we use to make individual improvements as compared to a larger project. And I'll talk a little bit about that as we're going through each of the slides. So if you go to the next slide, please. The GCO pump station is actually on the site of what used to be the old GCO treatment plant out by the airport, which is now the fleet center. But where the little arrow is, we built a pump station about over 25 years ago to essentially take all the flow from the GCO sewer district and pump it into the city of Rochester and eliminate the treatment plant, got rid of the permit and all the other requirements to go along with it. So that pump station's been there for over 25 years and it's just in the need of having some upgrades done to it. So the $1 million capital budget for this is meant to do mechanical, electrical, just infrastructure type things within the building itself, some grading, some doors, other things to just get that pump station back up and keep it going in a proper operating condition. So did you want to stop at each one or you want to just brief through and then you can ask questions
Unless
later?
Ishan or anyone else has concerns, maybe kind of give us the presentation for each of them and then
Okay,
I'll call for a motion.
all right. The next one is the GCO general collection system. So again, this is just essentially general money that's being used to update any of the 300 miles of sanitary sewer that we have there, 45 pump stations, a number of smaller facilities, metering valves, those types of things. And we do those under a 5-year planning. There's a group of mechanics, engineers, folks within DES that get together and develop a 5-year plan, identify and prioritize things that need to be done in the collection system and the pump stations to make sure they stay viable and operational over the life. So some examples that we've done, we do auxiliary generators we'll put out of pump stations for resiliency and reliability. Trolley basin improvements. We'll find individual drainage basins that may have high infiltration. So unfortunately, acronyms, there's two acronyms, right? Increase in improvements is I&I, but I&I also stands for inflow and infiltration, where if there's a crack in the sewer or the joint has separated, groundwater can get into the sewer and takes up capacity in the sewer. We're essentially treating clean water, so that's not a good thing to do. So in the Trolley Basin, for instance, we go through, do an investigation, identify areas that need to be cleaned and upgraded, and would use the term contracts that we have in place, a general sewer contract, where they'd actually excavate and replace a piece of pipe, or we could use a CIPP, which is a cured in place pipe, where they actually do an inverted sock that goes in and lines the sewer and keeps all the water from infiltrating in. So there's a couple different techniques we have in place to go back and modify the sewers, and the capital budget we're looking for in 2025 is $350,000 to undertake those projects. Next is the Ironically Bay South Central District. So, and I guess going back to GCO, here's the thing where we talked about under the general, we make some repairs to an individual sewer section, or in the case of the GCO pump station, because it's a specific project, we would fund that separately. That's why we're asking for the additional $1 million just for that project itself, as compared to the money we would use to upgrade sewers throughout the district. So in the Ironically Bay South Central District, we have a specific project, the South Central Trunk Sewer, which is a little under 6 miles long, large diameter from 21 to 30 inch in diameter. But again, needs some repair and some upgrades, get some infiltration out, allow some capacity back into the system, which provides all the sewage that basically flows through Henrietta comes through this sewer. If you go to the next slide, there's actually an image of it, right? So the sewer starts down south below the thruway, heads up along the east side of the Genesee River, cuts across, and then goes to a large, it's over by. Bless you.
Thank you.
So that's that project. If you go on to the next slide, going back to the Ironically Bay South Central, then we also have the 5-year planning projects that we do. So this money, the $450,000 we would use to do the individual projects. If we have some sewer lining to do, if you could scroll up a little bit, it shows the examples. A lot of these really go into pump stations, because the larger interceptors we have, we would do that pretty much under a discrete project. But here we do individual pump stations, putting in auxiliary generators, fixing force mains, little things that we have to do there, and some work at the Ironically Bay pump station, which is down at Van Lair. Next slide. So in the Rochester district, generally that's where most of the sewer activity happens. We need heavy equipment to do that. Dump trucks, when we do excavation and have to move material. The lower left-hand corner, there's a boom truck. If we get to a pump station, have to pull a pump out or pull debris out of a deep pump station that can be, up to 30, 40, 50 feet deep. We would use a crane like that. And then on the lower right-hand side, people historically call it a vector, but it's a combination sewer machine. It's got a high-pressure water jet that brings debris back, and then a vacuum that sucks it out. So it's just the $750,000 will let us keep updating our rolling stock on an ongoing basis as those things start to age out. And the thing with that is you don't want to run them into the ground, because they do have salvage value. So we'd like to keep them in good condition, so when we trade them in, we get good salvage value for those in the future. Next one is the CSO tunnel system. So again, here's something where even though we have a general pocket of money, if you will, for the Rochester Pure Water District, here we'd like to get some specific funding for the tunnel system itself, which has been in the ground for over 30 years. And has some large mechanical, electrical equipment that needs to be replaced, and it's reaching the end of its useful life. So the initial 1.2 and 25 will get us started in some engineering, get some projects going, and then we have some additional money that we're going to be requesting. Well, it's in the CIP in 26, but that would have to be part of the 26 capital budget. And if you go to the next slide, I mean, this is a whole other thing by itself. The tunnel system was just phenomenal, but on the left-hand side, there's a tunnel boring machine. These are all in rock. Our tunnels are all in rock from 8 foot. This is 8 foot finished diameter to 16 foot diameter. Generally, if it's an 8 foot tunnel, they drive a 10 foot tunnel. A 16 foot tunnel is an 18 foot opening. Then they concrete it back. But there's a tunnel boring machine that just gives you an idea of the size of that. And those cutters at the end are, if you can imagine, if you know what a glass cutter looks like, got the little disc on it. Those are essentially like glass cutters. Push them into the rock. It fractures the rock. gets put into buckets up to the top of the machine and carried over a conveyor on the way out. But anyway, in our system, we've got 30 miles of deep rock tunnel, up to 200 feet deep on both the east side and the west side of the river. It's pretty much one of a kind. There's only a handful of, around in the country. And Monroe County actually got the first EPA CSO award for having the tunnel system in place 30 years ago. So that in and of itself is a neat system. It's kind of a big blessing because you sink a shaft and drive a tunnel, nobody knows you're there. You know, this was a large project. It was $550 million in '87, which is equivalent to about 1.3 billion today. And at the time we did a roadshow afterwards because, you know, rates are going up and people are like, why? What did you do? Nobody really knows of the activity because everything was done underground. Really phenomenal process. Really neat. All right, I could talk forever on that thing. So Van Lair, 135 MGD treatment plant. So it's 135 dry weather flow. With the tunnel system during a rain event, the plant can actually see over 600 million gallons per day. The tunnel system's used to store storm water and then try to get it up to the plant on an as needed basis or as on an available basis. So that plant can get up to 600 MGD. But anyway, our operating permit, it's Speedy's permit, which is the state pollution discharge elimination system. Our permit is coming due. So we've got some money in here so that when the permit comes in, we can assess it, see what kind of implications it has on the district to be able to address whatever needs those are. So more from an administrative viewpoint is what this funding is for. The next slide is the Rochester district. So there we have 700 miles of sewer. Again, they're combined, which means both sanitary and storm go in the same pipe, or we have separate sanitary and separate storm sewers, 15 pump stations, the deep funnel system, and the treatment plant. So there's just quite a bit of facilities. And as you can see, the sewers, some of the sewers in town are back from the 1830s. The treatment plant originally was in the early 1910s and has been updated over time and it's operating quite well. So this $2.5 million helps pay for the improvements throughout the district. So again, we put these are past projects, put in an auxiliary generator at the Charlotte pump station. We did some upgrades to the Maplewood siphon. A siphon is it's the technical term is an inverted sewer. It's a sewer that goes under the river and pretty much operates under pressure, but it doesn't have a pump station behind it. And we use the term contracts to make those repairs. And then, of course, it's work that we do up at the treatment plant itself. Fire screens, pumps, drives, motors, that kind of stuff. And again, that's all done under that 5-year planning tool that the engineers and the operators do. The next one is Northwest, so similar to Van Lair. This is a smaller plant. It's only 22 MGD, which is still big in the scheme of treatment plants. Same thing, the permit's coming up and we want to have money in here so we can evaluate what the implications are of the permit that we're going to get from the state. Next slide is Northwest. So at the treatment plant, this 22 MGD plant, it was built over 50 years ago. The electrical equipment getting old. It's an old process, which is a surface aerator. So there's basically a big egg beater that's splashing the water around, and that's how the air gets into the water to do the biological process. We do have another project that's in the CIP to change to a fine bubble diffuser project. So basically, it's putting a bunch of discs down at the bottom of the water, bubbling up bubbles through the water. And it's a more efficient transfer of oxygen from into the water for the biological system. So in anticipation of that project, we're going to do some electrical upgrades we need just for the plant itself, but then also to accommodate the future activity that's necessary for the fine bubble diffuser project. And that's 1.8 million in this year, and then there's additional funding in subsequent years for finalizing the project. The next slide is Northwest Quadrant, just the general improvements. Right, so we have 4 large pump stations out there. There's a number, I don't know if I put in there how long. Yeah, 60 miles of interceptor. So again, this is one where we collect the sewage from the individual towns. They're responsible for their own individual systems, but we take it up to the treatment plant and process it. So there's some example projects down there, the big pump stations, we put air relief valves. So in a force main, when you get to the top of a force main, you got to let the air out so it doesn't cavitate and it pumps more efficiently. Flow meters, just all that technical stuff, I guess, if you will. And then I think the last slide, oh, that was the last slide. So there you go. Yep. Yeah, so you can see there's just a lot of stuff. So we do ongoing day-to-day things in the districts, but then we do have discrete projects that we'll identify. And generally what we do on those, in the case of the GCO pump station, we'll get kind of some seed money, some engineering money, if you will. We'll do some engineering design, identify what the true costs are, and then make sure that we have sufficient money in subsequent CIP years to make the improvements that are necessary.
Yeah, I was trying to remember, so in total, these are all not amendments of existing projects, they're new projects, essentially.
Correct.
They were not in the CIP to begin with. 11 in total, and they add up to about 13.2 million.
They were in the CIP.
They were in the CIP, the 25 to 30 CIP, they were in there. So we're amending the capital budget, not the CIP itself. Is that correct, Bob?
That's correct.
Yeah. So there's two processes, right? You
Yeah.
have to get the
Yeah.
project in the CIP, and then you have to have the money to do it. We got the project in the CIP, but as Bob explained, we didn't get the money due to a technical glitch last year. So that's why we're asking for the money now. Normally, I think the process is when we approve the CIP and the capital budget, they would all kind of be done in the same one fell swoop.
Yes, we
Okay.
are getting, too big for our bridges in finance. Because these are, so normally the entire first year of the CIP becomes the capital budget, correct? And the legislature votes on the capital budget in the month of December. Increase in improvements, however, require a 3-month legislative cycle. So the first month it's simply introduced. Second month, it's tabled so that a public hearing can be scheduled, and then the third month, the public hearing is held and the legislature votes yes or no. So we have to pull those projects out of the original capital budget that was decided upon in December. In prior years, the capital budget that's included with the county's annual budget reflected these projects. But the legislature did not get the financing authorizations to vote on. So there's now a disconnect between the capital budget and then 5 minutes later, a vote on the financing. The numbers should match. We made them match this year by pulling these projects out of the capital budget. So now technically, this is an amendment to the capital budget. And the planning board reviews and looks at all amendments.
Yeah. Were these the only 11 projects that were pulled out to make the numbers match?
Yeah, because these are I&Is, right?
The cash capital for information services, did we pull those out? So these are the only ones that are pulled out.
So the rest of this year, we won't have others that are voted on like this.
Like this, no.
No. And then like, how are they being funded? Just through the capital budget, which is authorized.
A majority of these are cash capital contributions from operating budget to the capital budget. I think there are a couple in here that are bond financing, I believe.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, so like the CSO project is
yeah,
bonded, right? The electrical project is bonded, but the ones that are listed as general are district cash. And again, that's Bob dealing with our director to essentially try to minimize the cost of financing, right? It's gonna cost us
Yeah.
so much to finance it, so much to build it. Why don't you just build it and pay
Yeah.
for it out of cash and not carry that bonding?
In the CIP that I guess we recommended in March of last year and was approved by the legislature in July of last year, it didn't delineate how it was gonna be financed.
Yes, it
It does.
In these 11, it did?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you zoom in on that maybe a little bit? It's kind of hard to see, but see where it says DC?
Yeah, I got you.
And then if you scroll down, then if it's just D, it's district, it's bonded. Again, that's bonded through the district, it's not bonded through the general fund. That's why the districts are their own financial entity, have their own financial responsibility. That are paid for by the rates for each district.
Great, thanks for clearing that up. All right, any other questions for? Yeah.
On financial question, a technical question. You talked about infiltration of fresh water potentially into sewers that are cracked,
Groundwater, yeah,
groundwater.
right, yep.
Is that less of a concern than the opposite, than the sewage getting out? Or is
The
that,
sew-
or is that based on hydraulics?
Yeah, it's based on hydraulics. So if there's water coming in, the pressure keeps the sewage from going out.
Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say thank you so much for this presentation, and I would appreciate having the slides so I could share with my caucus because I think they would appreciate it too. So thank you.
Yep, I will send those slides after this meeting.
Didn't know sewage was so much fun, did you?
I had an idea.
Thank
Cool.
you.
All right, any other
questions I got?
Any other questions for
Okay.
Sean or?
Good, thank you.
All right, so we're gonna do, let me just read off these, because I'm sure we need to have that read off for the meeting minutes and for the online attendees. In total, we've got 11 amendments to the 2025 capital budget. We'll start with the first one, which is amending the budget to add a project called Gates Charlie Ogden Sewer District entitled GCO-GCO Pump Station Improvements in the amount of $1 million. That's amendment number one. Amendment number two is amending the 2025 capital budget to add a project to the Gates Charlie Ogden Sewer District entitled GCO-SD General Collection Systems Improvements in the amount of $350,000. Third one would be amend the 2025 capital budget to add a project to the Irondequoit Bay South Central Pure Waters District entitled IBSC PWD South Central Trunk Sewer Improvements in the amount of 1.2 million. Next up is amending the 2025 capital budget to add a project to the Irondequoit Bay South Central Pure Waters District entitled IBSC PWD General Pump Station and Interceptor Improvements in the amount of $450,000. Next was amend the 2025 capital budget to add a project to the Rochester Pure Waters District entitled Replacement of Heavy Equipment in the amount of $750,000. Next, amend the 2025 capital budget to add a project to the Rochester Pure Waters District entitled RPWD-CSOAP Tunnel System Improvements in the amount of 1.2 million. Next, amend the 2025 capital budget to add a project to the Rochester Pure Waters District entitled RPWD-FEV-SPDES Permit Upgrades, and that's in the amount of $1 million. Next, amend the 2025 capital budget to add a project to the Rochester Pure Waters District entitled RPWD-General Collection System and Treatment Plant Improvements in the amount of $2,500,000. Next, amend the 2025 capital budget to add a project to the Northwest Quadrant Pure Waters District entitled NWQ PWD-WRRF SPDES Permit Upgrades in the amount of $1 million. Next, amend the 2025 capital budget to add a project to the Northwest Quadrant Pure Waters District entitled RWQ PWD-NWQ WRRF Electrical Improvements in the amount of $1,800,000. And the last and 11th amendment is amending the 2025 capital budget to add a project to the Northwest Quadrant Pure Waters District entitled NWQ PWD-General Pump Station Interceptor and Treatment Plant Improvements in the amount of $950,000. So with that, can I have a motion for those 11 amendments?
So moved.
Moved by Bob,
Second.
second by Joe. That's all right. So
They are from the same, those to them.
yep, good point, Joe. I'm sorry about that. We're gonna take your second out,
Okay.
and we'll second by Dave. I don't want to read those 11 again. All right, any final discussion or questions? All right, hearing none, we have a motion that's been seconded to approve all 11 of those amendments. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I'm also an aye. Any opposed? All right, our motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, any other business? All All right, hearing none, we've got a meeting in a week.
Yeah.
Right, a week from today, that's March 6th, and it's a special start time of 3 p.m.
Just want to remind everyone that next week is our CIP month, so we will have meeting every Thursday for at least 3 weeks. And as Mike mentioned, it will start at 3 instead of 3:30. And I believe as of now, we will meet at the multi-purpose room, but if there's something changed, I'll let everyone know. And just a reminding about the agenda for some of the new members here, it will be the introduction of the 2026 to 2031 CIP program. And then we also, the members will set a public hearing date for the CIP and next week's meeting.
So we'll hear the presentation of the CIP and then we'll set the meeting date. That's what we're doing next week. Okay. Ishan, thank you very much. All right, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
A second by Andrew. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.